You're about to get the full roadmap from A to Z of how to systemize your construction business without annoying your employees or working 100 hours per week. This isn't a generic video. We're going to give you some instructions, expect you to get the work done and figure it out. Instead, I'm going to be building all of these systems live right in front of you so you can literally copy what I'm doing and paste it into your business. A major myth that holds contractors back is thinking you need to be extremely technical or advanced online. That's totally not the case. So with that being said, we're about to cover what systems you need to build, how to use them to make millions of dollars of profit while saving you time, and how to easily build these systems without getting burnt out. Before we jump into me showing you exactly how to set up these systems, we need to define what a system is. A lot of people have their own definitions. You've probably heard it online a lot from different people. Systemize this, systemize this. Is it, AI? Is it software? Is it documents, SOPs? All of the above. Essentially, to boil it down, you've got something that needs to get done and you create a process behind it. You need a proposal that needs to go to a client. Well, that process is your system. You already are producing proposals for clients. So you have a system there. It's probably just either in your head, it's not well defined, there's maybe not enough accountability behind it, whatever it is. But that is the system. Same thing with answering the phone. That's the goal. There's a process behind answering the phone. So systems can be super minute. They could be very expansive, but essentially that is what it boils down to. The type of systems that you want to implement are ones anywhere where there's like repetitive type work, anything that can be automated or we can get a software solution in place. You want to build out those systems. You want to start with what's going to have the biggest impact on your business. Okay, type of systems you don't want to build is anything that is way too technical that your team cannot utilize. So it's not, even you may understand it, but if your team can't use it effectively, it's not going to be a good system. The other thing is anything human facing, so client facing especially, too much automation, messaging, AI agents, or even answering the phone, all that kind of stuff. Yes, they can be helpful, but too much of that is not going to be a good system, and it's going to affect your business and the experience that clients or tradespeople or whoever are getting from your business. So that being said, one of the first places to start is organizing your operations so that you can save yourself time and not waste a whole bunch of frustration looking for things and spending hours looking for something that should be there within seconds. So getting organized in your construction business, one of the first things, as I mentioned, I like to install is Google Workspace. You could use another cloud system like SharePoint with Microsoft or something like that, but I like the Google Workspace because it integrates well with a lot of other of the Google apps. It also is very user-friendly. It's easy for your team to utilize, whereas I find the Microsoft stuff, if you're a very large organization, maybe there's more controls and some security things there, but really it's usually confusing and frustrating. So I like Google Workspace. You're going to want to get the standard plan. That'll get you everything you need to implement the system that I'm about to show you of how to set it up. I think the starter will do most of it too, but the price is so nominal. Standard is definitely the way to go, unless you want some of the upgraded stuff, but that should be enough to get you started. Once you go through, you can start a trial, create a new account, and you'll go through all these steps. So you'll get to this step and get a new custom domain. So if you already have a website, then you should have a domain, at yourcompany.com, construction XYZ, whatever it is. You will set up using an existing domain, and then you'll have to connect to, GoDaddy's the most popular one, but like Cloudflare, GoDaddy. I like SiteGround. So whatever it is, you'll connect your existing domain so you can use, your name, like Derek at xyzcontracting.com. That is the step to go. If you don't have a website domain, then you can get a custom domain through Google. So here you'll pick that step. Once you go through this, you'll put in your domain name. It'll find what it is, and you'll just go through the steps to get the Google Workspace account. Once it's set up, you will be transported to something like this where you'll be logged in. I'm using one of our clients' accounts. Thanks for it. And so we've just set this up for them. And essentially, you'll have a fresh new account. In the top right here, you've got your different apps. We'll go to Drive and Shared Drives. The reason you want to set this up in Shared Drives is because later we will set roles or groups for your company. And you can just share someone with a group. So let's say you have a new project manager. You share them with the project manager group. Then they automatically have access and are shared to the what you want to share them to. And later, if they move on, they get fired, whatever it could be, you can just remove them from that group. And now they're not shared with anything in your shared drive. So it just works really well for that. Instead of like using My Drive, the difference between My Drive, this is like your personal drive where it'll have your personal stuff and it's not accessible to the rest of the team unless you share like certain documents and things like that. The problem is if you've shared a bunch of documents to somebody, then it's hard to know who you shared what with and to go back and change that. That's why we use shared drives. Now, to set up a new shared drive, you'll go new shared drive and you'll put it in here. So let's say I wanted 6 goals or something like that. We could do that and simply set up another shared drive. Each of these drives kind of function like a separate sort of My Drive, like they're separate drives. And I like to number mine. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my standard setup here. So branding, marketing, sales, I kind of go in a client journey. So for like business, you've got a brand, you got to market, you got to sell to get business. Once you got business, then you've got clients and projects. When your projects are, running, you're going to need to hire people. So you got human resources. You're going to need some financials and legal around your business. So that's number 4. And then 5 is admin, which is like the glue that holds everything together. You could have admin and company files, whatever sort of things. Pretty much admins are like a catch-all. Anything that doesn't fall in the 4 first drives, typically goes in admin. Again, you could have 6, 7, 20 if you wanted. Keep your system simple though. The larger categories you can have and the less sort of buckets, the better, because you may understand where everything is, but a new person coming onto your team and just having to click through like so many different things is a lot. Now, inside the shared drives, you'll have additional folders. You'll have your top line folders. That's what I call it. So branding, marketing, social media, your website, sales docs, branding, materials, marketing pictures. That would be typical clients and projects. I like to have this as you would have running a project. So new lead comes in and you've gone, preliminary kind of ballpark budget. They seem like there could be good clients. You would then create a client folder inside the pre-construction projects folder. Later, if it didn't move forward, client, you lost the project, you could move them to lost projects and they just collect dust in your archives. But if they move forward with the proposal, you move into construction, they go into current project. This is where you would have, if you got 6 projects on the go, you'd have 6 different folders here with your different client names, Betty, Sam, Sue, Charles, Johan, whatever it is. Completed projects. Once the project's done, you've moved on, you put it in completed projects. You could probably have like years here, like 2005, 2026, whatever, right? So that you don't have, depending on how many projects you run a year, but once you've got over 10 folders or whatever, you could probably separate those folders by years. It also helps you to kind of like go back and see how many projects you're doing per year. This 5th folder here, this is your templated folder for clients. Very important. So that's why it's client name, project address, template. So client name, Betty Sue, project address 123 Main Street. That's how your new clients folders will be named. And you may be saying, well, I've got this project management software and we keep track of all the files and our clients and everything is in the project management software. That is fine. I have found usually the project management softwares don't do a great job keeping files, being able to edit the files and being able to share those files with anybody that you want to share them with. So that's why I like to use Drive. Yes, you'll probably upload your plans into your project management software and maybe a few other little documents, but I would make this the basis. This is also very easy to get into through apps. That's why I like Google as well, is like on your phone, Android, iPhone, doesn't matter. You can easily get access to your information. If you want to skip all the hard work and get all of these systems built in your company directly by us, click the first link in the description to apply to work with us, get the most powerful systems built without all of the headaches. Now, inside the client project folder, I've got 7. You could have 2 or 20. Again, doesn't matter, but typically you're going to have plans, blueprints, drawings, anything to do with like the specs and all that kind of stuff. Estimates and bids. So if you have any estimate documents or the actual bid or proposal documents, you put it in there. And contracts, permits, field memos, that type of thing go in there. And client documents, financial change orders, pictures, and general notes. The general notes is actually going to be a full file. It wouldn't be a folder. That's actually an oversight, so we got to go fix that. But there'd be a Word doc here, essentially a Google Doc that would have general notes. You can just dump in emails, communications with the client, anything that you got to remember that they maybe sent you or texted you or whatever, you can drop into there. And then client documents here. This is ours. So usually we got a handover guide of what to expect during construction. I'm not going to get into all of this because I'm showing you how to set up the system, but I think you get the idea of like, you've got a templated folder that every client gets the same structure of folder. And you may be thinking, well, if I have to do this for every client, like I got to go make all these folders and documents. Don't worry about that. We'll be setting that up after this next little session here. I'm going to be showing you how to automate all of that through Zapier and tie it in with your project management software. So it's super easy and it just happens automatically in the background. So you don't even have to think about it. Now that goes through the shared drives. Human resources, every employee, same thing. Typically, every employee will have their own folder. Anything to do with that employee, files, whatnot, will go in there. Subcontractors, trades, same thing. Every subcontractor will have their own folder. Again, I'll show you how to set up an automation that does all of that. HR docs, employee training, and hiring. So employee training, this is where you would have all your SOPs, any training materials, could have safety material in here. For me, that's a human resources thing for training people. So that's why I've got it in the human resources share drive. And then you've got all your different functions of your business. So anything, let's say project management, you may have different SOPs for that, or whatever training videos and things like that would go there. Now, financials and legal, I keep this pretty much open. You probably have two folders in your financial, legal. Financials usually doesn't get used a whole lot, to be truthful. It usually that's going to be like in your QuickBooks or your accounting software or in your emails or something like that. It doesn't really need to make it on the drive. You can back up all of your receipts and stuff on the drive. I've got clients who do use it for that, where they just dump everything onto the drive and their bookkeeper organizes it from there. So you could use it for that. Legal would be insurance, incorporation documents, any, if you had a lien or something like that, that would go in there. And then admin, company files, random files, could be like worksheets, templates, like if you've got different types of templates that you want to keep, I would put that in the admin. So that is your share drive. Now that all looks good and said and done, but the key thing here is you've got to go to your admin console. So if you click your admin console in the drive there, or you can also in the apps click admin, that will bring you up to something that looks like this. So you'll get to the admin console. From here, you'll go directory. Users will be anybody that you have as an additional user. You pay monthly for additional users. So that could be your project managers, or if you got other, maybe your admin person or whoever, but you don't need to have a separate user and pay for, additional user accounts for your carpenters or regular employees. Pretty much if you want to have a user, it's because you want to have their name at you want a separate email address for that user is typically how it happens. But if you just want to add them and share them to your files and have them utilize like Google Drive or the shared drives that I mentioned, then you can set them up here. So how we would do that is you're going to create a group. The group name could be whatever. I like to number mine. So we could do 7. Let's say managers, group email, managers, description doesn't matter, and security, I leave that clicked off. You can put it on later, but that kind of hinders you from doing a couple things. You'll go next. Now here you can go, there's a couple of different options. I typically make it public and anyone in the organization can ask, so that they need to ask to join. Normally nobody would know about this, so they're not going to be able to really ask anyways, but I would put that. And allow admins to add external members. This is important because you will be adding other people that aren't in your workspace. So they could have like derek@gmail.com email address. So it's not associated with this workspace. If you don't click this, you wouldn't be able to add them as members. So that's really important. And then we would do create group, and it's going to create the group for us. So sometimes it takes a little while for it to pop up, but this is my standard build. You'd have 0. all team members. So this would be typically like anybody who doesn't have a different role, and it's just like regular company files that everyone should have access to, no matter who they are, whether it's like the new guy that just started on site, or yourself as The manager, you wouldn't be in this group because you'll be in a different group, but typically this would be like your carpenters or people that just need kind of like basic information. Marketing will be the marketing in the shared drives. You got project managers, admin, and HR. Usually group those together because usually they're one and the same. If you've got separate admin and human resource teams because you're a larger company, you could separate those. Financials, and then senior management essentially has access to everything. And how you work this is, let's say we've got project managers. You can add a member here. So that's how you would add a person, just put in their email address and they would get added. If you pull up the group, this is the email address that you use to share to your drive. So I would copy this, Control C on the keyboard. And then this was project managers. So I'm going to want to share my project managers with clients and projects. And if I go manage members, then I would add them here, project management team, and you can choose kind of what permissions you want. If you want them to be able to delete, content manager, if you just want them to be able to add and edit, you can do contributor. A manager has kind of full access, viewer. If they're your team members though, probably content manager makes the most sense. If you're worried about them deleting stuff, you could do contributor, but it is kind of annoying if they can't delete things because sometimes you get these multiple documents of stuff. But that is how you would share the groups with your different shared drives. So I would go through and just share the groups with the relevant drives that I want to share them with. And then anything inside that drive, they now have access to. And let's say someone quit, I would simply go back and manage members. So I'll go this managers one that I just did there. So managers, manage members, and you would delete them from here. There's nobody in here right now, but essentially you could just click on them and click delete. They're then removed from that group. And now they're no longer shared with anything on your shared drives. As long as you haven't shared like specific documents with them, they won't be shared on the drive. So that is how you set up the admin space. Now, I know when people are migrating over to Workspace, maybe you have like your own personal Google Drive that you've been using for years and you don't have a business workspace set up. And now it's like, well, do I have to transfer all of my files over? Like what happens then? So in that case, you can go to data. There we go. So data import, export, data import. Google finally got this in April of this year. It was a long time coming, but now you can import your data directly. So if you're, from Microsoft, if you have a different Google account, Dropbox, whatever it is, you can now use this tool here, this data import from Google to import from wherever and just import like everything you want and then organize it in your new workspace. So you don't necessarily need to bring everything in. Certain critical information that you may want to refer to, yes, but even if you just have a clean cutoff that anything new is now going to be in the workspace, you can work from that. And then over maybe a 6-month or 1-year process, that other stuff that's in the old space will just, you probably will never need to access it. Still keep it in case you need to. If you just want to copy everything over, you get a ton of space on Google, like 2 terabytes, I think, for the standard plan. You're probably never going to use that unless you've got just massive like video files or something. So yeah, bring all your data over and you can start on a fresh workspace. Now, as mentioned before, with automating the client folders for every new client, we're going to be doing that. We'll go over to Zapier and you'll need to upgrade to the professional plan in this case to be able to utilize this specific automation because it has multiple steps. You can do single step automations in Zapier, which help for a few basic things, but it's worth the upgrade. I think it's like $20 a month or something, $20, maybe $30 a month. But if it saves you half an hour of work every month, it's worth that $30. So what you'll do is get a Zapier account. You'll create a new Zap. So we'll do create Zap workflows. And how automations work is there will be a trigger. So something has to happen. Typically, it's a form gets filled out or status changes on a project or a pipeline, and that triggers the automation to run. So in this case, we're going to be adding JobTread. You could be using any other project management software. It could be your CRM. So if you're using like a Rapid Lead, which we have, which is like a Go High Level, or it could be HubSpot, something like that, whatever it is, you'll choose the trigger. So in JobTread, the event that we want is it kind of depends on when you want that new client automation to fire. But typically it could be a customer contact created. So whenever a new customer is created, or it could be a status update as well. In this case, we're going to do customer contact update. And we'll do continue. We'll choose your organization. And then you can test the trigger. And when you test the trigger, it'll pull up some records. If it can't find a good record, it'll just put in some test data, which will be okay typically. But you can kind of check it to see it. It should pull up a record, sometimes multiple ones, and just check that there's information in there. Continue with selected record. Now you got to do the next step of the automation. And I've got the full one built out here. So I'll walk you through this because there's, as you can see, a lot of steps here. But the beginning couple of first ones, I'll walk you specifically through those because they are important. So the next step will be filter by Zapier because we want to know what happened essentially. Every time a contact's updated, it could be any number of things, right? Updated address, updated status. We don't want to create a new folder for every time something happens for that client, but we do want to do it when the status has moved to estimating. Typically, you could have different steps, but that's what we've set up here. So I'm just going to be jumping back and forth here. And here we've got only continue if account custom field value status exactly matches estimating. So in this one, they had custom values of the statuses of the client in JobTread. So that's what we would put in here as well. And we'll do exactly matches. So here, if we search for status, account custom field value status, and you can see here, it'll show you the current status that it's on, so estimating. And the reason you want to press this plus button and pick a data point is because we don't want to just type in estimating. We want it to come from the specified options that are inherent in JobTread. So for the filter conditions, you'll want to do account custom field value status. And so if you search custom values, there's a lot of them. So status it would be a better identifier. And you can do contact or account. I believe they're fairly similar, but if you try one, it doesn't work, try the other one. I'm going to do a contact account custom field values. I think this is more for whether you want, if you have multiple projects under one customer. So we'll choose account custom field value status and exactly matches estimating. Now, estimating is, if you go to your JobTread, we've got estimating as one of the steps in the jobs pipeline here. If I change this name to estimating and budgeting, I would then need to update the Zap as well. So you'll have to figure out which step in your pipeline you want the new customer folder to be set up. It could be for every new lead. Typically, you wouldn't want that though, because then you'd have all these folders for just people that maybe weren't interested. But whatever the exact name is there, that's what you would add. Now, that'll set up the filters. In this case, your Zap would have continued. So we're good to go. And then the next step here is find or create folder in Google Drive. The reason we want to find the folder is because if that client already has a folder with that exact name and project, we don't want to create another one. So we want to see, does it already exist? If it doesn't, then we will create another one. And so find or create folder in Google Drive. We'll go back to our automation here. The next app that we're going to include is Google Drive. Choose an event. So we did find a folder. And we'll do continue. So folder name is going to be essentially what you're going to name the folders. And the way that I name the folders is first name, last name, the location, so the address, the city, and the state. So that way it's very clear that this is the client, so that name, plus this is the project address. If you have the same client with a different project, they would have a new folder with their name and then the new address of the other project. So we'll press this little plus button here, and we want to get information from JobTread. So we've got contact first name. You could do contact name and it'll have both together. It's a little easier. I like to do first name, last name just to have better differentiation, but either one will work. So we'll do contact name, and then I'd usually do a dash, and then we'll do address. And you want to make sure it's the contact, not your account. You can typically see the address there to know what's what. So we have the address, and then we would have so yeah, in this case we'd have the full address there. Search type. We want exact match because we want to know if it's exactly the same. You'd have to pick your drive. So in this case, it's going to be clients and projects is the shared drive that we're doing. Parent folder, you don't need to specify this. So I'll just leave it blank, and that way it'll search in the entire shared drive. This can stay the same. Same with this. And then you want to click this little button here, create Google Drive folder if it doesn't exist yet. So you're going to click that, and then we are going to continue. And you can test the step to see if it'll create that folder. So you would then want to go to your Google Drive in the clients and projects folder and see if indeed that client, what a folder was created for them. So that's that. You can also rename all of these. So find a folder or create new. So it's good to name these steps because later, if you're going back or someone else is coming to edit these, you want to know kind of what each step is doing. So it's good to keep a good naming in there. So that's where we have this filter here, stop if existing folder found. So we don't want the automation to continue if it found an existing folder. So that's why we put this filter by Zapier and put a stop in there. So we'll do another filter. So Zap data was found. If there's any Zap data, that means that something happened and we can continue. If you search data, Zap data was found, we'll choose that. And exactly matches and then false. So exactly matches, and then we will put false. And you can see essentially that if it returns false, it means it was found and we're good to go. So in this case, your Zap would have continued because it did find some Zap data. Now we can set up all of our folders and the files. So create a folder will be the first one. So we're going to folder here, or Google Drive, choose an event. We're going to create a folder, continue. Again, you'll have to pick the drive. So we're in the client's drive, and the parent folder, we need to not have a specific value here. We want static value. So I'll go here, configure. So the parent folder needs to be the folder that we made up for the client. And this is what can kind of mess up your automation. So we're going to do custom, and this ID here, that long string of weird numbers, that ID for the Google step, and that's what that's saying, that number 3 is step 3. So this step 3 of the Google Drive, where it created a new folder, that is the identifier of the new folder. That's like what Google uses to recognize it. And so we're going to do that. And then the folder name is what we want to name the folder. So as I mentioned before, we've got our numbered folders. So the first one would be one plans.blueprints. And then we would add the same identifiers as before with the customer name and the address. And the reason I use that is because if you're ever anywhere, it's easy to search. So if it's Sally Smith, you can search Smith, you can search Sally, you could search 123 Main Street, whatever it is, to pull up their folders and files. And it's very easy. So that's why we add their name after these plans, blueprints, drawings. If you just had plans, blueprints, drawings in every client folder, then if you search plans or blueprints, it's going to, if you have 20 clients, there's going to be 20 different folders with the same name. So that's why we always want to identify folders and files for clients with their name and with their location of the project. So we'll continue this. Again, you would test it. I'm just going to skip it here, but you would test it and then go to your drive and see if it actually made the folder that you wanted and the naming is correct. If anything's wrong, then you'd have to go back and change the details in the configuration here. Now, that is for folders. And as you can see here, like we do the number 1 folder, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'd set up all these different folders for my drive template that we had here. So if we go back, so we have this client template folder. So we create all of these different folders here automatically with this and the client's name. And then eventually we would get to documents. So here's all these create folders. Now we want to copy a file. And inside your folder, you're going to have files. So we've got a selection sheet here that we use if clients aren't using a project management software for selections. Let's say we want to copy this selection sheet for every new client, which is a pretty typical thing. How we would accomplish that is you do add step, Google Drive again. This time we're going to copy file and continue. Now, the face ID or the file ID, we're going to have to get from the specific document. And how you get that is this URL in the top here. Anything between this D slash, like forward slash, and this slash edit is the identifier. So in this case, it's that. So I'm going to press Control C. And then here I'd click these three little dots, custom, and I'm going to paste that in. So now Zapier knows in Google it's going to go search for that file with that string of identifying numbers that Google has. Convert to document, I would probably say true, but I'm going to go check my other stuff. So yeah, we would do true. You'd have the file name, the drive, and then the folder that you want to put it in. So we'll put true. File name, this would be like selections sheet, and then same thing here again where we would put the customer name and the address, drive. This is going to be in the clients and projects, and then the folder. So the folder would be one of the folders that we made previously, and same thing again, you'd click these three little dots, you go custom, and then depending on which step it was for which folder, because we've created 7 different folders, you want to pick the folder that you want to put it in. So in this app, we just made the Google Drive folder in step number 3. So that would be step number 3. And we use the ID tag here. Continue. Same thing. You could test it out, make sure that it gets copied over. In this case, we wanted to put it in for the general notes. That's what we do. But the selection sheet here for configuring, we would put it in step number 8 because number 8 was where we created the client documents folder. So that's how you know which folder you're copying that document into. And in this way, you can use any number of different documents or folders. And whenever that happens in JobTread, where you move the client into that pipeline stage and their status changes, Zapier is going to recognize that, and it's going to spit out those folders and files in the Google Drive. The place that it will do that is just right here. The reason I do that is because maybe you just want to put them in current projects or pre-construction, so you could then drag that folder and drop it into whichever place it is. Now, if you wanted all of them, like that first file, just to go into pre-construction, then you would set that up in Zapier here, where this first folder, you put the parent folder here, pre-construction projects. So then it would put it in the pre-construction for the parent folder. So that is how you organize your company in the workspace and set up a Zap that automatically runs for every new client. You could do the same thing for subcontractors and the same thing for employees. In those cases, you could have subcontractors in JobTread. So you could have a trigger of, new subcontractor added potentially. Typically, I do that through a Rapid Lead CRM because I can have a form where the subcontractor puts all their information. Same thing with employees. You send them a form. They fill out the form. It could be a Google form. It could be with your CRM. And all that information then goes into your CRM, and that triggers Zapier to run the automation to set up their folder in your Drive or set up certain documents or maybe send an email, whatever it is, so that when a new subcontractor or employee gets set up, you can set up a bunch of automations to save yourself a bunch of time there as well. For getting your company files and structure organized with the Google Drive and the Zapier automation, next system you're going to want to get into place is your marketing system. So you always have a flow of leads coming in and there's no friction. You're pulling leads from all sorts of different sources, constantly making content and bringing in new qualified leads that are targeted for your company. We installed this exact system for one of my clients, Rob. He ended up doubling his revenue in a 1-year span. And he went from being non-profitable all the way up to $280,000 in profit. And this marketing system completely changed the quality of leads as well as the amount of leads that he was getting into his business. So nowadays, every company needs to be a social media content generation company. You need to produce content. That is what people are consuming. That's how you reach them online. They want to know that you're an expert. They want to get value from you. They want to find out about your business and what you do. And it's just a must nowadays. So that being said, you need to have a great content machine system inside your business. There's a couple ways to go about this, but the idea is you have large pieces of content and then you break those larger pieces into smaller pieces and you have automation that can send it out to all the different social channels. So I'm going to be running through that whole setup right now. I use ChatGPT as my main kind of source for AI. I also use Claude. Those are my two. You can use Gemini with Google or Grok or whatever one you want. The concept and setup is very similar. I'm going to be running through how to use ChatGPT and Claude in unison. I like to use multiple AIs because they're stronger at different things. But GPT is kind of my go-to. We have custom GPTs. Custom GPTs are essentially like a playbook that you give it to do a very specific task. So some that we have is like an email copywriter. So if I'm writing email marketing, I will use that custom GPT. I have one for blog articles. I've got ones for business strategy. It could be any number of things. Today, we're going to be looking at this blog article copywriter. What you'll do to create a custom GPT is you just do create, you put in your name, description, you give it the instructions that you want it to do. So in this case, I want you to write a blog article for my business. We're a home building construction business. Keep the content geared towards, this type of demographic. I want it to be professional, but approachable in easy to understand language. So just really be as descriptive and explain as much as you can. If you don't get it perfect on your first go, not a big deal. I'll show you mine that I use with my business in a second here, but you always are improving and updating these instructions. Now, Claude has like Claude skills. I don't know about the other ones I mentioned. So it may not be exactly the same, but you can essentially use the same type of prompting and formats and files in whichever AI you want. Now you put your instructions in there. Conversation starter is just simply like a button that you press for it to like prompt you to give it information. Here's where you'll upload files. Now I will jump into my custom blog article writer. Now, keep in mind, this is for my business to connect with more general contractors. Yours will be geared towards residential, professionals in your city, whatever it may be. But I like to have a very descriptive name, little description, and then my instructions. So I put a little confidentiality warning just for it not to be copied and that needs permission essentially and things like that. The bot role is something you want to put in. So your role is to guide the user to create a blog article before starting your task, ask for input, documents, that kind of thing. If you want specific copy, just drop a comment here. If during this video something's not working for you, or you see something and you're like, hey, can you share that with me? Just drop a comment and I should be able to help the whole group out. Cat comes in here every now and then. So I like to provide 5 different articles to choose from. So you could have an ideation part in this, or ask it for like 5 different titles that you want, because you want to choose like the best title. Write a long form blog article. 1,000 words is usually about good. You could do more, you could do less, but usually that's a good length for enough description and what people want to read. This is pretty tight. You could probably even do 1,000 to like 1,500, or give it a range so that it can have some ability to create, the length. If you're doing a very detailed, large blog, it'd be more. If you just want something smaller, it'd be less. I always do not mention specific people in case I'm providing some sort of case studies. I found ChatGPT sometimes will use my name very specifically, or things in there when it doesn't need to. So that's why I have that in there. Essentially, when you run the prompt, you run the custom GPT or skill or whatever, there'll be outputs that you don't want. Like it puts M dashes, like those dashes everywhere, or maybe it always says like one of the common AI things is, it's not that it's your fault, it's like this, right? So it uses a lot of these like weird things. Throw it in there. Provide more information, target audience, or third, I will now provide with more information. So I give it links to different websites. So this could be like your about page on your website, maybe your services page on your website, your home page. Put those links in there so it's got background information. And you also want a meta description for the blog. So when it goes on to your website, there is a meta description, and then any additional resources if you want like some knowledge-based stuff from online. In ChatGPT, you can also upload these files here. So you could have links to these files if you're not able to upload them specifically. In custom GPTs, you can just add them. But like missions, core value, if you have like blog articles you've written before, put those in there so it can kind of mimic your writing style. and know more about you. If you got any brand guide, a niche, ideal client profile, any of that kind of stuff is amazing because that's going to tell it specifically like this is who we need to write the blog article for. Any kind of marketing documents you can throw in there. So you'll set that up and then you'll run it. In this case, let's say I want to write a blog article about 7 things to avoid when planning your new home build. Now, when you're creating blog articles, they're going to be used for SEO. The people you want to attract are the people that are thinking about purchasing your service. And this is before they've reached out typically to contractors. So you want to be thinking of things like like if you're a home builder, planning a home, how to design a home, things to avoid, what you should know before deciding to whatever, XYZ, reach out to an architect, or how to, what's the cost of building a home, common mistakes, and that kind of thing. So as my prompt runs here, my custom GPT, it's following my instructions. So in this case, it's going to ask me, which title seems the best. So I'm going to say, 7 costly mistakes to avoid. It's kind of a little bit redundant or clickbaity or whatever, but it's very on point. So I'm going to put this one and let it run. So I'll throw that in there. I'm just doing this quick and easy. You can give it a little bit more prompting and things like this. The other trick that you can use for this is to record yourself. So on your phone, if you get the ChatGPT app, I haven't used Claude app, but I'm assuming it's the same. There is a microphone and you can just talk to it. So you could tell it, hey, I want to write a blog article about this. These are kind of things that I've noticed like clients have difficulties with or things that I would avoid and stuff like that. Sometimes it'll ask you for answers here. So what I used to do, what I still do is I will create a YouTube video and then I'll get the transcript from the video, put it into here. So if I create a video on a certain subject, I can take the transcript wording from the video, put it in here, and then it'll run. So that's another way is you can just talk, explain what content you want to put in there, drop it in here, and it'll do a fantastic job of writing. So it'll give you some output. Of course, you can keep talking about it. And I've found that ChatGPT is a little bit more mechanical. It does a decent job of writing, but it is more like technical professional oriented, whereas Claude will be more personable and like use better language and be more natural. So that's why I will often create the idea and run with it in ChatGPT because I like the custom GPTs and stuff like that. And then I'll take this, I'll copy it over into Claude, and I'll say, review this blog and rate the parts out of 10. Can't spell very good, but so essentially I'll run it through Claude. It'll tell me, the title's kind of weak. This section doesn't make sense or could be improved. And then you essentially tell it, okay, please update the blog and improve all elements to at least 9 out of 10. I would typically read through these and kind of make sure they make sense, give it some more feedback and what have you. But even just doing this with AI, don't take it at face value the first time. It'll give you something pretty good right out of the gate. And it's like, wow, this is, not bad. But nowadays, content has to be good. It has to feel like it's not written by AI and just some slop that came out like this. Like I wouldn't publish this necessarily as is because it's just pulling from everything else on the web and what you generically think about. That's why the more you can talk and put in your own insights of like, hey, I have clients who are always making the mistake of having their budget is way out, or they reach out to interior designer and don't even have our like drawings yet, or know like the size of their house or whatever it may be. So take real experiences from your clients and from like what you've done in your past and put that in to make sure it's more geared towards what you truly encounter with, running your business and the things that come up. But I can guarantee you this right here, what Claude did based off of like its feedback of like, it rated a lot of things like 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. You could do this for eternity. It'll always find things that could be improved. But when you cross-reference across AIs, it becomes pretty powerful. So anyways, you've got this great blog article. You can download that, proofread it, of course, make sure it makes sense. Once that's done, you can put it on your website. Now what I can do is please break this into 7 social media posts that I can post. So now we've got 7 social media posts. We can download that, take a look at it. Oh, it made an MD file. So I'll do this. You could ask it to do like a Word doc or whatever. So here's the first post, pretty short. You could ask it to do a longer one. All right, so now we've got our 7 posts here. We could run all of them or just a couple, but essentially that's how you've taken a large blog article, put it down to 2 posts. You could also ask it for, please give me a little short script for a video. So if you could do a video of yourself, just quick video. I know it could be a little scary at first getting video out there, but just small video talking about like design, versus strategy. So design mistakes that I see people. So you can make short videos. Keep in mind, I'm running my custom GPT, so it's not really geared towards like what yours would be as a general contractor, but it's the same idea. Now, the thing with ChatGPT is we can take something like, pick one here, the budget, and go to ChatGPT. We'll do a new chat. Actually, we could do the same one there. Actually, no, I thought we could create an image there, but we'll have to do a new chat. But we can create an image. I can put in that same thing. Please create an image for the social post. Gear it toward young family professional that just moved to our city. Now, what I should have done here is said, make it ultra hyper realistic, like it looks like a real photograph. The realer, the better. And don't put any wording on it. So I could be a bit more descriptive. That is another thing where you can create a prompt and you can kind of reuse the prompt for all your different things. The other option is you can put in one of your houses, which would be best when you can use real photos. So let's say you just completed a new home build, put that picture in here. Or if you have like a design rendering from a house, put that in here. You could just use that in your social post, or you could ask ChatGPT, like, take this photo, use the real photo and add some extra detail or add a title to it or whatever. And so that works great. Okay, so this is what it came up with. It's pretty AI-like. What you could say is, remove any wording from it and make it more realistic for residential home build or whatever, right? I'm going to leave it at that because it takes a little while to create the images. But once you get the hang of it, it can create some really great pictures, which can be used for social media. Again, you'll have your own brand guide in here. You'll have your ideal client profile, hopefully, or at least like a general demographic and your city, so it knows your location. Kind of the more information you can give it, the better the output is going to be. But it's a great way to touch up photos. I've had photos where the quality wasn't very good, or let's say you took a picture, but it was like a dark, rainy day and it kind of doesn't look great, even though the house is really nice. You can put it in here, say, hey, can you make this, keep the house and everything exactly the same, just make it a sunny day, or make this picture pop a bit more, but keep all the details the same. So ChatGPT is getting better and better. I used to get so frustrated with the image generation. There's still the odd thing where it's like, you got to work with it, but it's getting really, really good. So that's that. The last thing I'm going to show you is Canva. Canva is a great way to take short videos and add some captions onto it. Captions on your video make the videos more accessible, because a lot of people, when they're on their phone, they could be in a busy, crowded place. Maybe they're with their family and they don't want to have the volume on, whatever it is. So captions just provide better reach for your content and make sure that's more consumable. So here we are in Canva. We're going to create a video and add subtitles to it. So what I'm going to do is create videos, and in this case, I'm going to use YouTube Shorts. You could use other ones here depending on what kind of video you want. But in this case, I'll use YouTube Shorts. You can also just upload a video and it'll automatically choose the size of it. Then you go to Uploads, Videos. I've got some that I've already uploaded here, but you do upload files and then upload whatever kind of video you want there. I'm going to pick this one. So that one will drop in there. And then we go to Captions and generate captions. The captions get generated. Click on captions there. This is the transcript. So if you want to change, like maybe the wording is wrong or something, typically it's pretty good and not worth the time to go and change it. But if you want to, you could. And then they've got all these different styles here, and you can customize the styles depending on what you want. So let's say we wanted something like this, but we want a different color. We could choose whatever color we wanted. So that you can change the font, you can change the size, whatever you want, and we'll play it. So you can see that's a much more engaging video. We can bring this higher, change the size, whatever. And then once you're done with the video editing, for me, because these are social media, they're kind of like, I wouldn't say throwaway videos because you can use them over again, but you're going to post a lot of these typically. Like I said, you've got those 7 different points. You could do like a 5-point blog, make 5 different posts, release one every week. So you don't want to spend a ton of time on this. All of these types of things that I'm talking about, you'll have a hand in setting up the system and the process and maybe trying it out. But your admin person, if you have an office manager, somebody else at your business can definitely do this for you and get this done. Now with AI agents, we're not far off either from maybe setting up agents that can do a lot of this stuff with the right setup and knowledge, but that's getting kind of out there as far as what we do. This is a nice, easy way to do this. And then you do share and download, and then you can choose the type of file. MP4 for video is what you want to do. And then the quality here. 1080p is great. These are social media posts. It's not going on a big screen anywhere or anything like that. So that is essentially, we've created a blog article. You've created 7 different posts that you can put on social media. You can create images using your photos from site or the ChatGPT image maker. And we've created some videos from the same concepts. So that's 2 to 3 social posts per week that can go out, plus a blog articles that's going to help you for SEO. Within maybe 30 minutes to an hour of your time to input for the content idea and someone else running this, you can have your social media and content machine running for a full month essentially. And you could batch this all at one time, right? So you're only spending maybe an hour a month creating some content, and then your team can run with it, and you've got stuff going forever. Getting it out there is another story. So what you want to use for this is we have our CRM called Rapid Lead. It is the Go High Level platform. We've customized it specifically for general contractors. I'm going to go to our template account here. And whether you use this or some other CRM, you should be able to have like a social planner and be able to push out your content to all of the different channels. So in this case, we've got all these different social media channels that can be utilized. And you can see here, we've got some content scheduled and published and what have you. But we would come into our Rapid Lead, new post, create new post, and then we can select the social account. So we can send it out to pretty much all of our accounts, TikTok, LinkedIn, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and Google Business Profile. Some of them are limited by the character limit, and some are limited by they only do video, or some can't do video. So usually like Business Profile, the Threads are 2 that I would click off if I'm doing like a video or a longer post. If I'm doing a short post or just an image, then I can send it to all. We would upload a video. So in this case, we'll just pick one here, but we would insert that one. So that'll load in. We'll grab our blog article writing from our trusty Claude here. So we'd say if that's for the content, throw that in there. And then hashtags, we've got saved hashtags. In my case, I do construction tips, but you could have like home building ones, obviously, or whatever hashtags, but it throws it all in there. You've got that. You can put in a follow-up comment. So what kind of design are you looking for on your home? You come up with a better question than that, but you could have like, click this link to get our home build guide, or click this link to contact us to get started with your project or start designing your project, whatever it is. Put a link in the comments, and you can mention here, like you can put a link here as well. What you can also do is create email content. So if you have an email list or an email newsletter, and I'm going to get into that, setting up that system too. Like I'm showing you everything today, how to set all these systems up. And once it's running and systemized, like it might take you a couple days, but like you have such a strong business at that point. Now you can copy your email. Like if you send an email newsletter, you can pretty much use that same content for posting to social media. So just think about if you're pushing out like even just like 2 to 4 social media posts, like a video, an image, like the email copy with a different image per week, you're going to be so far ahead of your competitors. And with something like Rapid Lead here, the CRM, it's so easy just to like put content in here. Yeah, you want to make sure it's good, but then send it out to all your different channels. You can choose sort of like how you want them to go out. There might be some warnings. So, we need to share this as a reel, that kind of thing. Once it's good, you can see the preview, how it's going to look on the different channels. Then you can do schedule. You can schedule it for next week or whatever. And the idea is you make content like once per week or once per month. You add photos when you complete projects or whatever else. So you're putting real photos in there, and then you're scheduling it out. So you're always like a month or two ahead. This way you can go on vacation, you can do whatever, and your marketing engine is going to keep pumping out content. You're going to keep attracting leads. And this is all going to run in the background without you. And even the ideation and all of that stuff, like an admin person can have a list of ideas. They come to you, they just get your input and feedback and they run with it. It's a very easy system to put out a lot of good quality content, specifically problems that your clients have, questions that they have, things that come up, timely events, all that kind of stuff. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about for the marketing system is we've covered social media now, but what about emails? So from this blog article, we've got these 7 different topics, right? 7 different things. You can create emails for all 7 of those, or you could put this whole blog article into into an email and just have like the condensed points. So I'm going to do that here. So we're going to download this 7 costly mistakes, and then let's say we had, another GPT, custom GPT or Claude skill for writing emails. You could use the same probably blog article writing one. It's going to be similar. Please write email for my email list with a condensed version of the blog. So we're going to do that. We'll cruise over here to our Rapid Lead software and we'll go to emails, create campaign, go to our templates. So we're going to have a campaign template here. The Rapid Lead software, like we have all the automation set up. We have all the templates for emails. Everything is here. It's like a business in a box as far as like the marketing side for your business. So what I'm showing you here, this is our personal company account, but it's going to be very similar to our templated account that our clients get. Now, here we've got like, hey, contact first name, and then you've got your content. We've got book a strategy call. You could say like contact us or visit our website, links to social media, and then just a little bit of, the unsubscribe and whatever that you should have on your emails. We'll go back here. So it's done that. Download output files as Word docs. Sometimes ChatGPT will do this. It'll make an MD file, which is a markdown file. And it's just an easy way to use files for it. But if you need it in a different format, just let it know. So while we wait for the documents, you can also just get it in the side panel here. So we've got the 40K lot that costs 70K or more. I don't know if that's a good subject really, but we could run with it. You can always just ask it for more subjects. So we got the email, so we'll download that, take a look at it. I like to download the file and look at it. It's just easier than in the preview mode is what I've found. But essentially you would copy the email into here, update it, always have a call to action with a link to your contact us. And then when you're ready, you would do send or schedule. Then in here, we'll schedule, you pick your time, put the sender name, different stuff like that. We would tag it to our email list. So anybody on our email list would get tagged. And then we would do review and schedule to get it scheduled out. Now, one thing I want to mention, which is really cool about the Rapid Lead here, is you can do A/B testing. So for the email subject lines, if you've got, a few hundred people in your email list, even if you got 100, you can test subject lines. So you could have 2 different subject lines. It'll send to 50% of your audience. Let's say subject line A gets opened more. It'll then send the remaining emails with that more open rate subject line so that you get more people opening your emails essentially through A/B testing. And it's a very easy thing to set up. So this may seem like a lot, but it's actually quite simple. And once you have someone, we've got training videos for all of this stuff specifically to do these different things, then you can do that. The other email that I want to mention is your automation. So, and this one I will go to our template account because it'll have specifically for general contractors. So when someone fills out the form on your website or whatever process you want to use, but typically when they fill out the form on your website, they'll click the little button to opt into marketing communications. They will then go on your email list and they'll get put into an automated email sequence. So we have this new email list, subscribe, welcome, and this is where we have our automation set up. Just as the Zapier automation earlier, you always need a trigger. So in this case, we've got a form submitted, trigger. Either they subscribe to our newsletter or they've been tagged with an email list tag. And then we've got a different automation for the form where it will recognize that the form's been filled out and tag that specific person. We've got a couple of things here. So disable D&D, that just means like do not disturb. So if they've unsubscribed previously, if they click the button again to opt back in, then we'll remove that do not disturb because they've given intent that they want to be back on the email list and receive communications from us. We put them in a pipeline as well. And then we send them a welcome email. And these will be templated, like as you can see, your logo here. But every person that gets on your email list should be sent a welcome email and then a number of additional emails. We don't have the emails in here, but we do have the templates. They would go in that automation. We customize it for the client. So you could, do that for yourself or just reach out to us if you want us to set this all up for you. And so we'll go to marketing, emails, templates. So we send out a reactivation campaign, and then we've got this nurture campaign. So everyone who subscribes, they'll go through this email sequence. Like I said, we don't have the additional email set up here. We would add those in because we have separate copy documents that we bring into here. And then we also have a sorting mechanism. So if people don't open the emails, like if we send them 5 emails and they don't open any of them over like a 2-month span, then we remove them from our email list because we don't want to be sending emails to people that aren't opening them or aren't engaging with our content, essentially. It keeps the domain, your email domain, fresh and make sure that you're not hitting like spam filters or whatever, things like that. So that is that. The last thing I'm going to show you is just the forms. So we've got all these forms set up here. So you would set up a form. This is like website contact form. So you're going to get the name of the person that is interested, where they live, the type of project, their budget, how they heard about you, things like that. Then, typically you have some sort of verification, verify you're human, agree to receive, email and SMS messages from us, upload documents, whatever. And then you take this form, put it on your website, utilizing a CRM like Rapidly. Then there can be any number of automations that are set up where it can send this information to JobTread through Zapier, like your project management software, all sorts of different things like that. In order to build the best construction business possible, you're going to need great people. You're going to have to hire great talent. The people that are going to remove your stress, take care of their job, know what they're doing, and remove all that tension and firefighting that comes up with C-level players. I had a client recently, Ben, he's been able to double his profit in a 6-month period. And he had a C player who just wasn't cutting it. He realized even though he'd had this person for quite a while, they were not progressing. He said his A player labor that he had or site manager was producing like 2 to 3 times the work, even though he was paying him maybe an extra 20-30%. So finding the right people, paying them well will produce great results for you. He ended up hiring a project manager along with 3 other carpenters, a roofer, I think 2 carpenters. And his life is so much easier now because he's got a solid production crew. We installed these hiring systems to help him find the right people. And I'm going to be running through that system with you right now. All right. So just like marketing, you want to reach a wide audience of people to find the right fit clients. Same thing with hiring people. So I'm going to show you how to set up an automated system where people can apply and put in an application to work with you, no matter whether you're hiring or not hiring. That is the thing. As a business, you always want to be hiring, not that you're going to hire someone right now, but there should always be an application process. So you're collecting a database of people in your area who are qualified to do the different positions in your company. Now, back in Rapid Lead here, we're going to go over to forms. And the first thing that we need to set up is the form. So we'll set up a job application form. Now, you can get a subscription to Rapid Lead. This is all plug and play templated. You can also use something free like Google Forms or JotForm, I think it is. There's other form builders. But you need some sort of form that you can put on your website so people can apply for positions, again, no matter whether you're hiring right now or not. And in the form builder, this is all just plug and play. You drag and drop contact information. You want to keep it pretty easy. First name, last name, phone number, email. So you got their contact info, city, state. You want to know where they're located. If they're, across the country, maybe not a good fit unless you want to relocate them. Job position applying for. So this is where you're going to fill out the typical roles in your business. In this case, normally you've got your carpenters, labor, whatever you want to call it, site manager, foreman, superintendent would be the next step, project manager, office admin, and senior management is kind of the typical roles. You could have additional like an HR manager. Depending on the size of your business, you may have more roles, but most contractors, under the 10 million mark, this will encompass most of the different roles in the business. And then a place to upload their resume and cover letter. So have a place where they can upload their documents. Any questions, comments, additional info. So this is where they can add some additional information. And again, on the form builder, this should all be drag and drop, very easy to set up. You can do single drop down, multi drop down, check boxes if you wanted to. I like drop down for like selecting one thing. This is a first kind of step application. So you don't want to have too much friction unless you're getting like 10 applicants a day or something like that. You want to make it pretty simple for them just to upload their documents. The idea here is you're just getting their contact info, knowing what type of position they want to be in. And then any like little additional information essentially, because you want to put them in your database. And the reason for this is if in a year from now you're hiring for a new project manager, you can go back to your database. So we'll show you how to like what that looks like. And you can then send an email out to everybody who applied as a project manager in the past year, 2 years, 3 years, because a lot of the best people that are available or the best people for that position may not be available because they're in some other company. So they're not actively looking for a job. But if they're in in your database, they'll get an email in their inbox saying, hey, we have a project management position, apply. If you're a desirable company to work with, or maybe they're tired and fed up of their old place or they want to change, now you've got them, you got their attention and can get them maybe, to get on an interview. So always have a consent form that you can use their information or send them information. Submit application. You have a button there. Privacy policies, terms of service. These are nice to have on there. You probably already have these on your website as well, so you may not need it on the form, but good to put on the form. And then you're going to integrate it. So there should be somewhere where you can get code. So you can either have a link, so just copy the link to the form, put that on your website, or get an inline embed code. So in this case, we want an inline, copy embed code, and it won't show here, but that's essentially the text, like HTML programming. You just copy that, send it to your web developer, and they can put it on your website. If you manage your own website, then you probably know how to do this. And you just put in that custom code on your website, and then you will have this form have a separate, tab on the website, apply or hiring or your job application, whatever it may be. And then whenever you have someone reach out like, hey, are you hiring? Yeah, go fill out the form or send them the link to the form. So that's setting that up. That's the first thing because we want to capture their information. I'm going to go over the pipeline. Just as you have a sales pipeline, it's also good to have a hiring and employment pipeline. And the reason for this is it'll work with the automation that I'm going to show you how to set up in just a moment here. Essentially, when someone fills out that form, they're going to go into this job application received part of the pipeline. And from there, you can either put candidate not a fit, and that'll just tell them, hey, you're not a fit for the job, whatever it may be. If you want to interview them, then you'd move them to the candidate interview. If you've interviewed them, not hired them, they could go there. And if you did hire them, then they would go to onboarding. And then we have a bunch of other stuff there too, as far as like employment, how long they've been with the company, because we like to know that. But how you do this is if you don't have a pipeline set up, go to pipelines, create pipeline. We do hiring pipeline. I can't spell, as you can tell. And then you put in the stages here, and that's about all there is to it. And then this is incorporated into the CRM system, and you can set up automations around it, and as well as some other things. So that's what it looks like. I'm just going to discard that. And we've got the pipeline here. I'll show you the full stages. So those stages that I mentioned there, up to onboarding new hire, employee fired or left. So if later you fire them or they leave the company, you would move them to that stage. And then we've got automations behind, like, have they been here 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years? So it tells, get a little notification, hey, John's been working with us for 2 years. Great. You can put a little, post out on your WhatsApp or Slack channels or whatever. Congratulate them. And it's nice to recognize employees that have been with the company for any number of years and maybe even get them a little gift or something like that. So, anyways, that is the hiring pipeline. Just wanted to show you that so you know what's happening when we go to the automations. So, job application, this may look a little overwhelming technical, but the nice thing about automations is it's like process, right? Just step by step. So in our Rapid Lead CRM here, we can have multiple triggers. If the pipeline stage has changed in that hiring pipeline, then it'll trigger this automation. If the form has been submitted, it also triggers this automation. So you could have this as two separate automations if you wanted to keep it a little easier. I like to have more things in one. Otherwise, we'd have like hundreds and hundreds of automations. It's a little hard to find what you want sometimes. So that's why hiring automation, and then we can organize it this way. So first thing we do is assign it to a user. So in this case, this is our template account. So Johnny Appleseed here, but you would assign this to whoever is the HR manager or whoever is going to be reviewing the resumes typically. If that's you and your company, then you would put yourself. That just means communication, notifications, things like that would go to you. So you know when someone's filled out the application, when status has changed, stuff like that. This condition here is essentially asking, was the trigger a pipeline change or was it an application form that got filled out? So that's what we've got here. I'll just show you how to check all this. So the easiest way is always to search typically whenever you're building anything. So if I want to sign to user, I pick that and then I just pick the user. And you can do only apply to unassigned contacts if you wanted. Typically though, you're just going to assign it to someone. So that's that. And for conditions, we've got if else. In this case, sometimes it'll be named different things. So it's asking, if application form filled out, do this. If pipeline stage change happened, do that. So that's what it's doing here. And then you've got your different branches. You would select essentially, in this case, it's a trigger. So workflow trigger, select the operator is, and then it's going to give you the options of the triggers that are at the top there. So these are the two. You can do pipeline stage change or job application form submitted. And so I'd pick one, do the hiring, and then we want to add another branch. And we would pick, again, trigger is, and then we do the other one, job application. So I do save changes or save action. It would essentially set up this right here. And then I also like to have when none of these conditions are met, I believe that is automatic when you set it up. So in this case, I don't have anything, but it is kind of a good idea to put a little notification there. Hey, nothing happened with this automation. So that way there's a possibility that something was triggered if it wasn't set up properly and none of these conditions were met, then it would just kick the person out of the automation and you wouldn't necessarily know about it. So I'm just going to do that. Select, we'll send an email. In this case, we're doing from email is custom values business name. From the name, from email. Again, this little tag here is a custom value. So we're going to do business email. And the reason we do these placeholders is because we can go to our custom values and let's say you changed your business email. It used to be your name at company.com, but you want info at company.com or support at it. You can just go to your custom values, change that. And now all of your automations, any like landing pages you've made, it all gets updated with a custom value. So that's why custom values are very powerful and you want to be using them when you can. Instead of manually typing in your information every time, same with like a website. Let's say something happened to your website or you change your domain. You don't have to go back and try to find all those little areas that you have it. User type, so we'll do assigned owners and then contact owner. And that's the person that we assigned earlier. The rest of this, not needed. We will copy this here. Subject did not put. So name it something that you're going to understand and think about. We'll leave it at that. Message, conditions were not met. Please check why this happened. and save action. So that kind of foolproofs it in case something, again, wasn't set up right. It would just go to there. All right, now into the automation. As you can see, we got some branches here. We'll start with the job application form submitted. So this branch here is that here. So workflow trigger is job application form submitted. We're going to set up an internal notification email. Same thing as what I just did over there. Custom values, signed owner. In the subject, you can also put custom values. So I like to put custom values of like first name, last name. So it'll say John Smith just submitted the job application form. And that way you can see their name and it's very clear right from the subject line. So you can put any kind of custom values in the subject line as well. And same thing, submit an application, review their information, have like a few action items here. I like to always make sure like this is actions that you need to take. Check this out. Essentially, check if they're a good fit from their resume. Everything looks good. Give them a quick 15-minute intro chat. Even if you're not hiring right now, let's say project manager sends an application through your website, still give them, if they're like a reasonable candidate, give them a quick call and say, hey, we're not hiring right now, but thanks for sending in your resume. When a job comes available, we will send you an email and get a little bit of, just like deal breakers out of the way, or send them a quick email. That could be automated as well. And just let them know, hey, we're not hiring at the moment, but we will take your application into consideration. But typically you do a 15-minute quick intro chat, make sure that they answer the phone, they get back to you if you leave a voicemail, they can communicate well. Again, deal breakers are there. They can, have a vehicle, they can legally work, all that kind of stuff. And if they still look good, then you can schedule a 60-minute formal interview. If you're hiring at the time, it'll outline the candidate's information. So these are all the custom values here: contact name, phone number, email, everything that they put into the form should be on here. It also has a link to their uploaded documents right here. And the way that we do that is with this custom values tag. So for like this one here, this resume one, you can do custom values, and I have to remember what it is. Resume cover letter. So I have to search for that. Upload your resume cover letter, click that, and you can see that's the custom value here that it would populate. So when I get this email, I can just click that link. It'll pull up the resume. We've always got it on file. I don't have it here, but you could set up another automation that directly puts it in your Google folder or somewhere else as well, if you wanted to have a backup of it and have it in your Drive system. So we've set that up for clients. I don't have part of the automation because it's their template account, so we'd have to set up those connections. That's maybe another video. This will do everything that you need to from there. So that's the first notification. This internal notification is just the same thing again, just it's a notification inside the Rapid Lead software. The reason we do this is so that we have that information in multiple different spots. So if we're in the software, we can go check it. If we get the email, so that if we're on the site or you're not checking your software very often, you'll still get the notification. Then we can also add a task. So we add this as a task, so someone has to actually click it that it's completed. Same thing again. There's some redundancy here, but we want to make sure stuff's getting done at the end of the day. Note, same thing. This is so that in their contact information, we have notes of all this, and all of this is like very searchable. So task, very much all the same. Put in the title, put in the description of the task, you assign it to whoever. In this case, it would be the owner, the contact's owner, and then a due date of when you want it done. And the due date is typically maybe one day after. You could set a certain time for it if you wanted, but when the automation triggers, you can do like 1 day, 2 day, like how long do you want to give them essentially to do this task. This creator update opportunity. So hiring an employment pipeline, we're going to put them in job application received. So the form, when they fill it out, doesn't automatically put them in the pipeline. We need to do that from the automation. So that's what this is. And how we do that is opportunity. So create update opportunity. In pipelines, we got all our different pipelines. This is the hiring and employment one. And then which stage do we want to put them in? Job application received, because they filled out the form and we want to put them in the application received. Opportunity name, I would typically do their first name, last name. You could do the date as well, so that when you're looking at their card in the pipeline, it's very easy to see who it is, when they applied, all that kind of stuff. And again, these are all just custom values. You could do date, and we could have start date. There's also appointment, a bunch of stuff. In this case, we would do right now because we want to know the time when they actually applied. So we do date. You got some different options here depending on how you want your date. So we've got all that. Now I just messed it up. But anyways, and then same thing as before, you got your first name, last name with your custom value here. So you'd set all that up. Opportunity value. This is if it was like a sales opportunity, you could put in like what is a lead worth to you, essentially, and then the status. Open means that it's an open case, like kind of like an open sale. Won means that it was completed. Lost is if it didn't work out. Abandoned is you like can't contact them, so you just kind of abandon it. Because those are more for the sales side of the pipelines with candidates, you would just leave it as open if they are in the pipeline. And in this case, we would just leave it open because we want to do something with that new lead or new applicant. So that's the updated opportunity here. You left it open. Allow duplicate opportunities. So this means that if someone was already in the pipeline, they could upload another application and it would be in there again. Probably not necessary, probably never going to really happen very often or much, but that's what that means. And then finally, we want to let the candidate know that they filled out the form. If you've ever filled out a form and never got an email and you're like, did they get my information? Are they going to contact me? What's going to happen? It's annoying. So we definitely want to be good at communicating. Same thing here. We would just add email. So send email from, custom values, business name, custom values, business email, subject, thanks for filling out the application. And then, a little blurb here is what you would need, save action. And then that would send this email essentially to the candidate. So thanks for your application to work with our company. Thank you for applying. Learn more about you, your background. In the meantime, feel free. We appreciate your interest, work with us, and your enthusiasm for contributing to what we do. And then something like, if your qualifications match what we're looking for, and we're hiring right now, and we are hiring, we'll be in touch shortly to discuss next steps. So something like that, so that if they don't receive any other communication from you, you've kind of told them like, we'll reach out to you as needed, sort of thing. So that's if the application form was completed. Now the next thing is this hiring pipeline stage. Now for every stage, we have some automations here, and just as we had a condition for which trigger, we've got another condition here for which stage of the pipeline. So pipeline stages, in this case, candidate not hired. We have an automation for that. Candidate, interviewed. If they're not a fit, then they get abandoned. So there's a number of stages here. The first one here is not a fit. So if we, in the pipeline, they will get a card. We can drag that card to a different stage. And when we drag that card, that's all we need to do. And then the automation will fire. In this case, here, I'll show you what that looks like. So in our pipeline here, when they fill out the form, they'll get a card that goes into job application received. I would just pick up that card, drop it in candidate, not a fit. Let's say they apply for a project management position, but they've got no past experience in it. And they live, I don't know, 100 miles or 500 miles away, something like that, which isn't a deal breaker. But anyways, whatever reason, they're not a good fit. I drag them to that stage. This automation will fire and they will automatically get this email. We're taking time to apply. We truly appreciate your interest. After careful review, we decided not to move forward with other candidates whose qualifications more closely align with the needs. So you can create a little thing here, essentially just saying, hey, for whatever reason, thanks again for considering us. Wish you all the best. Search job professional dev. And then we sincerely hope you'll consider applying for future opportunities with us. So you always want to leave the door open with candidates because maybe they don't have any project management experience, but let's say 2 years from now, you're hiring again for a project manager. That same applicant may have been working at a different company. Maybe they got 2 years of project management experience at this point, and now they may be a potential fit. So you never want to close the door on them and tell them no, you're no good or whatever. Let them know, hey, we would be open to hiring you, but maybe in the future when you have more experience or things change or whatever. So that happens. When they move to this stage, we're going to change the status to abandoned. So same thing again here, create or update opportunity. in the hiring pipeline, candidate not a fit, so they're in that stage. We're going to move status to abandoned. When we put abandoned, that means that the card essentially goes in archived, and so you're not going to see it in the pipeline because we don't need to know anything about them at this point in time. So that's what that'll do. For the hiring stage, I don't have anything in there because this would be, you'd be actively like scheduling a call or scheduling an interview with them, going through that, going through the due diligence, all of that. So there's no automations needed. Now, when we have here, candidate was not hired. So maybe you did an interview and for whatever reason, you're not moving forward. Similar email here, just automation. Thanks so much for taking the time to meet with us, share more about your background. We consider to move forward with other candidates. So very similar type email, but just letting them know that they're not a fit. If you've ever applied for a job when you were younger and you went to an application or went to a job interview and then they kind of ghosted you, it doesn't leave a great feel of a company, and you want to leave that door open, so let them out. And then same thing here, we would do status abandoned, that they're in there. So that is the job application hiring workflow. Now, using this setup with the form, the pipeline, and the automations, you can now build out a whole bunch of additional similar types of systems in your business. So some of the other ones that we have is like a new subcontractor. So if you ever have subcontractors reaching out to you, hey, we'd like to work with you. Can you send us some bids? No problem. You send them the form, they fill out all their company contact information, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. So let's go over there. So this is a subcontractor trade. So they put in their first name, last name, contact details, their address, location, website, what type of services they provide, and then you can have them upload their insurance documents right away too. So general liability, workers' compensation, and put in the expiry date. And because they're putting in the expiry date, we have an automation that will remind them in a year or when the expiry is of that we need updated insurance. So there's a lot of like amazing stuff you can put on here that just happens in the background. I know project management software has some of this ability, but none of them have the customization that works with your contact CRM system. And usually it's either it sends too many notifications or it's clunky. It's not automated as much as the Rapid Lead CRM. So that's why we do this. Same thing with you get W-9 form, and then they can add some references right away too if they're a new subcontractor. So you can have new subcontractor forms. You could have employee information forms when you hire a new employee. So the onboarding, employee offboarding as well when someone leaves. So similar thing where if the pipeline stage moves to offboarding, you can have a little you can tag them and internal notifications. One thing I didn't mention about tagging is when someone applies for the position, you want to tag them based off of what position they applied for so that later you can send them an email. So once you've been using this system, you can then go to your contacts. Of course, there's a template account, so we don't really have much in here besides myself. But over time, you will have 10, 20, could have 100, couple hundred different applications of resumes that have been submitted to your company. And we can go in here and filter by those. So we could filter by project managers and see all of the different project managers in here. So we just go filters. I like to filter by tags, and we would add tags. In that automation, I didn't show it there, but you can tag add any number of tags, and tags is just like a descriptor of something. So in this case, we'll do tag is, and then project manager application, and then we do apply, and then it would show everybody who's applied for project management position. We could then select all the contacts, do a bulk action, and email them. So select all the contacts. It doesn't show it here because I don't have any contacts. Let me go back. So we'll cancel these. But let's say I wanted to send an email. I could then send an email to all of the project manager applicants and say, hey, we're hiring. Please submit a new resume or application if you're interested in reapplying. or applying to our new position. And this is a way, again, where you can reach a much larger audience. You're going to get a much better chance of getting really good qualified A players. And you also spend a lot less on having to put out, ads and do a whole bunch of marketing. You should still put out all of that stuff, but I know a lot of contractors who pay thousands of dollars on Indeed or recruitment agencies. Those are great and you should use those resources, but ultimately if you can have a database, you're paying to find those people. It's like marketing. You're paying to reach all these people, but if they're not in your CRM, if you don't have their contact information, then you have to continue to pay every single time. So capitalize on the investment you're making to advertise for a position and have everybody here so you can reach out to them again in the future. All right, now using that system, you've hired an amazing employee, but now you need to onboard them. So we're going to set up some automations for the onboarding as well. And we're going to start again with a form. So we've got new employee info form. That's what we call it. This is a form you would send to your new employee. So integrate, and we just copy the link. You can send them the link. Hey, please fill out this form, text it, email it, whatever you need to do. They'll put in their information, address, location, social security number, date of birth, marital status, emergency contact, and whatever other information you feel is relevant, they can add here. They'll then click submit application. From there, they will go to this automation essentially. So employee onboarding. Now the trigger for this is pipeline stage changed in the hiring and employee pipeline stage change. So essentially anytime the stage changes in that pipeline that we set up before, this automation will trigger. And it looks a little daunting with all of these different conditions or branches, but they're all just repetitive except for the first one. So we'll go through that. So first thing, stage changes to new hire. So hiring employment pipeline stages, new hire, that'll go to this branch. We'll then do an internal notification. Assigned to user. So up here, I have assigned to user. Maybe you do the hiring, but your admin person will actually do the onboarding. That's why you would change the user from yourself to then, your admin person or HR manager, whatever it may be. So they would go in there, internal notification. Hey, we got a new team member. Yay. This will send it over to everybody inside Rapid Lead so that when they log in, they'll see, hey, we got someone new. Fantastic. Internal notification. So this will send an email to the assigned owner. So in this case, let's say it's your HR manager. And it's simply going to say, hey, we got a new team member and we need to do onboarding. I don't have the steps in here because it's a template, but typically you would have a couple steps here. More than likely, send them the new welcome email for the new employee and follow the SOP process. And I'll show you all of those in a little bit here. Next, we add a task. Same thing, follow the onboarding process. And then we've got a wait step. Pick a wait step. There's a bunch of different options. Like we could have wait step for a specific day or a certain day of the month, like all this kind of stuff. We're just going to do for a set period of time. In this case, 365 because we want to wait a full year days. If you're doing other automations, you maybe just want it to wait a minute or 5 minutes or hours, whatever you want, seconds. You can do that here, but we're going to do 365 days. So that's what you have set up here. And what that's doing is after they've been with the company for a year, so they go through the automation, they'll actually just sit in the automation for a full year. And after a year, then it'll complete the wait step. Now we'll move them into the 1-year employees. So in the pipeline, when we go to the pipeline, we can then see we've got 3 employees who have been with us for a year. And then we've got like 2 that have been with us for 2 years, maybe 1 guy who's been with us for 10 years or whatever, right? That's what this is doing. So creator update opportunity in the hiring and employment pipeline, we move them to the pipeline stage 1-year employees. We leave all of this blank because we don't want to change the status or any of the values there. And then this go to step just tells the automation, move the person from, this branch over to this branch. You'd simply add go to, and then when you save, it will ask you where you want it to go to. It won't work for me because I have a go to step after it already, so it would mess up the automation, but it'll ask you, where do you want to go to? You would click up here, then over here, it'll add a tag, 1-year employee. Same thing, internal notification. Yay, John Smith, he's been with us for 1 year. Make sure to congratulate him. Put out a WhatsApp or text message, or when you see him on site, like, hey, you've been with us for a year. Awesome. And then it's going to go to another wait step, wait another year. And same process again. After another year, he's now been with us for 2 years. It'll move him to the next pipeline stage here, creator update opportunity. And same thing again. Yay, you've been with us 2 years, so on and so forth. And that's what all of these other branches are. It's just like moving down the years of the pipeline. So it's just competitive. Quick pro tip, copy all actions from here. So you don't have to make all of these one by one. You can just do copy all actions from here and then move here, move here, move here, move here, and it'll just paste it and then just go and update the few little things that you need to. Like instead of 1 year, you put 2 year, 3 year, that kind of thing. So that is the onboarding employee workflow. Now, when they fill out that job application form, we want that information to go other places, right? So you have a new employee. Maybe you want to get them set up in your QuickBooks. So you've got a new employee in QuickBooks. You may want to get them set up in like your JobTread, BuildExact, whatever. So anytime we're moving information from one software to another, I like to use Zapier, as mentioned before. So we're going to create a new automation here. So do create Zap. And in this case, we want to go from Rapid Lead to QuickBooks Online. Rapid Lead is built on the Go high level software CRM platform. We've customized it for general contractors. And in Zapier, like the API is called Lead Connector. So different names for the same kind of thing. So we're going to pick Lead Connector. That's where our trigger is going to be. The event is going to be pipeline stage change. We're going to continue. You would also connect it with your Lead Connector account. Mine's already connected with the software, but essentially it'll ask you to connect. You'll log into Lead Connector, aka Rapid Lead. Continue, configure. So we got to pick which pipeline are we changing, or do we want to trigger from? Employment and hiring and employment pipeline. And which stage do we want it to trigger from? So in this case, we want the onboarding new hire. So whenever someone moves into that stage in Rapid Lead, all we have to do is just move their card. All this stuff will just fire off automatically. Continue, test trigger. I haven't done this recently with a new employee, so it's not going to pull up any specific information. If you've recently moved someone in that pipeline stage, it would have their information. If it doesn't find anything, then it's just going to have like generic information, which is fine because we're just testing it out. So continue with selected record. Now we're going to go to QuickBooks Online and the event employee. So create employee. You have to connect your account, and then we're going to configure it. This is the information for the new employee that we're going to configure here. Whenever we can, we want to use custom values. So email, given name will be first name, and then we got last name, phone number, fill that in, date of birth. Billable, not worried about that. Active, yes. You can put billable if you use that. Same with like cost rate. Keep in mind, this is like generic for every employee that comes through. So if you have like a cost rate, you would need to put that as another item on your form, or your admin person would have to put that on into their information. So in this case, I would just have your admin person, put that in QuickBooks. Not worried about this stuff. Address, we would add their address. So we just want their street address there. Same thing here, city. Easiest way is just to search for it. And country, you want to put in as much as you can, even if you're like not having people from different countries hiring, so it doesn't really matter, but it still just takes a second and then everything is in there. And it's also the more information you have, the better you can search for things and categorize stuff later on as well. Postal code, we'll continue. I'm not going to test it because I don't want some random employee going to my QuickBooks, but you could essentially test it just to make sure that it is indeed working and the information looks correct on your side. So I'm going to skip the test and then you would do publish. Now, I'm not going to do publish. Publish would just mean it's live and it's working. So after I create that automation, then we want to have our SOP process. And we've got SOP new employee or trade subcontractor process. So we incorporate both of them into one SOP. I like to have more things in one place than like 100 SOPs. In this case, you'd have your onboarding process and your checklist of what needs to get done. But essentially, the big thing is this new employee welcome email. So this would be something templated. In Rapid Lead, we have snippets as well. So if we have a contact, and here we got Derek Isaac, we're going to send an email. We got snippets. So like client weekly update, I don't have an employee right now, but essentially if you would click on it, it would automatically have populated the welcome email for a new employee. That's something we'll add in there right away. How we would do that is we go to marketing, snippets. You can create snippets in Google Gmail as well. They won't necessarily be across your company, but if you have emails that you send consistently or want a template, you can do the same thing through Gmail. So we do a new snippet. This will be an email snippet. We could do a text snippet as well. So name, new employee, welcome email. Our subject, then here we do welcome to company name. I would have to get the custom values. We do that. And we would want contact. Actually, we want the first name. So contact, first name. Take that. Welcome to there. So that's the subject. Get that out of there. And then we would have this email here. We won't need that because we'll put a signature. And we'll put that in here. Take out these placeholders and put actual values, custom values. So contact, first name. So, hey, first name, glad to welcome you as part of our team. Your first day will be, and then this is something you would have to put in. So I would just leave it like this. I like to do all caps so people can easily see it. Start time, meet for orientation. Again, you'll put in your app. You would put in their information there. New employee info form. So click here. This is where you can get that employee info form link. And so we go to forms and integrate, share, copy that link. Instead of putting some huge random link, we would just have like a click here. We add an embed link, put that in. I always like to do new window so that they don't have to scroll back. It just opens a new window. Save. So now whenever that email is sent or that snippet is used, it'll automatically have a link to the form. I attach 2 forms for you to fill out, sign them back. Also attaches this associate's handbook. Please review it. Now the handbook, I could put a link in here as well. I won't because this is a templated thing, but you could have please review this associate's handbook, or you could just download and attach it as add an attachment here. For tools, it's got your tools there. Any questions? And then over here, you would do a signature. And in your Rapidly profile, you'll have your signature, just like you have a signature at the bottom of your emails, like company name, phone number, whatever. That's what this would be. Now we can then add an attachment. So this is our employee handbook, team member handbook. Essentially, you've got like a little introduction about your company, what you guys think, like feel, vision, mission, core values, that kind of thing, job site etiquette. So don't park your big muddy truck across the client's driveway when you're just visiting or whatever. Don't have family and friends on site. I've had guys do that and clients ask like, why is there family here on the active job site? Stuff that comes up annoys you, that nitty gritty stuff, put it in the handbook. Tools are responsible for all that professionalism. When you show up to someone's house, knock on the door, introduce yourself, tell them who you're working with, wear the company shirts or whatever. Social media, hours of working, what holidays you observe with the company, if they get sick, what systems you guys use, some health and safety stuff, harassment, mental health. This is all that stuff that you want them to know. You don't want to have to communicate with every new employee, and you want them to be very clear. Read this. You need to know it. It's very important. We expect you to know all of this before your first day of showing up. So in this case, we would just download that and we could link to this document specifically. Probably that is the best method because it may get updated or changed or whatever. But if you wanted just to attach it, you just simply attach it. Then we can save this. Then we go to contacts. And their contact would be in here because they would have filled out the job application form. So you can pull them up. All their information is still there. And then you can do email, snippet. We have new employee welcome email. Boom, there it is. Everything's already there. You just put in like which day they're starting, that kind of thing, employee's name. And this is like something your admin person would typically do. Saves a ton of time. One time to set up, forever and ever. Any new employee you have, it gets that done and you're good to go. Now comes the part that's usually weak in a lot of construction companies. And maybe not be strong in yours either. Even if you think it is, it's usually not up to the level that we want to see our clients at. And that is estimating is where you actually make the money in your business or destroy your margins. You make money when you estimate. If you haven't estimated properly, if it's inaccurate, if your margins aren't on point, doesn't matter how good the project is, how efficiently and fast you finish it, you're still not going to make money. But when you've got solid estimating system in place with your templates and cost codes, items database, all this stuff I'm going to be going over in just a second, you can increase your profit and your margins consistently. A client of mine incorporated this. My client Rob, he was able to double his revenue in the 2 years that we worked with him, and he was able to make $280,000 in profit after being unprofitable when we started. So a big turnaround there. A lot of it attributed to the estimating and making sure his margins were in place. So first thing we'll be doing is jumping into cost codes. I'm going to be using JobTread for this demonstration. Other project management softwares will work somewhat similar, but I like JobTread a lot. Use it with a bunch of my clients. So in JobTread, you go to settings, job costing, and this is where you can import your cost codes. I've got a cost code list here that I will import. So I'll choose that. You can see I got a bunch of garbage data here. That is because for JobTread, we need a CSV file, which is essentially a very basic spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do is go over to my file, can open my cost codes list, and I need to change it to a CSV format. So I'll simply go file. I need to enable saving, good old Microsoft. Save as, you'll pick CSV, go save. Now I should have this cost codes, but in CSV format, I can then go back to JobTread and upload that document. So I'll put that in there. Now JobTread's going to try to match the rows in there with their own JobTread kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is, parent code would be essentially parent number. You just have to, depending on where you're getting your cost codes from and where they originated, what program they're from, they'll have different names for different things, but you'll have to essentially match it up. And I believe JobTread does have its own list. I like to use the National Association of Home Builders. Majority of my clients use that. It's the best kind of standard set for residential builders. If you are more on the commercial side, or if you want to get more detailed with your cost codes, you could use the CSI Construction Standards Institute set. They also have a list. It's more extravagant, if you will, more built out, a lot more numbers, typically overkill for what most general contractors need. So parent number is essentially the parent code, parent name, so that matches up. We don't have any child code or child names. I would then do import all remaining, and it would run through this. I'm not going to because I don't want to mess up my client's account, but essentially that's how you'd match it up. You'd bring it in. Once you're in there, you'll see all your different cost codes. Typically, there'll be your big categories like 1,000s, 2,000s, 3,000s, and then your more itemized cost coding, plumbing, HVAC, concrete, what have you. You can make a billion cost codes if you want, or you could have 10. It's totally up to you. I prefer to go on the shorter side. You don't need all of them typically, and you can always add as you need more. The only reason that you use cost codes is so that later when you complete the job, you can run a cost analysis and do job costing to know how much you spent in your different categories. That is the only big reason you use cost codes. Yes, it gives you some organization and it puts things in buckets. So there's additional benefits, but really you want to know what a job costs at the end of the day, and cost codes are the way to do that. Now, moving on, once you got your cost codes, you're going to want estimate templates. Estimate templates will save you a ton of time. They'll also eliminate mistakes because a good template will be a kind of checklist that you can go through. And it's like, oh, I forgot to add this, or I didn't think about this on this job. So you're not missing stuff. Human error probably costs you thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in your business. A good template can mitigate a lot of that. So how I would do templates is you can go to your cost catalog and you go to cost groups. These are essentially all your templates for estimating. And then let's say you're doing a home remodel and they want a new bathroom, a new kitchen, a new basement. You could load each one of those in individually to build out your estimate, or you could just have one large estimate, like a full home remodel that had everything in it. I prefer the large built out template and then just delete stuff out. That way I'm not forgetting things. But if you like the compartmentalized room by room sort of estimating, you could essentially do that too. Now I could import a CSV of an estimate template. I actually don't like to use the cost catalog to do this. I find the importing causes more errors for me with the structure of the top line and itemized like categories and then items in the categories. So what I'd prefer to do in JobTread is you go to jobs, just pull up a test one here and do it from here. So I'll go to budget. We've got nothing in there right now. I will then import. It's asking for a CSV again. I have got my new home build estimate template. It's in CSV format. So I'll load that in there. And similar to the cost codes, it's going to ask me, you now need to group things across. And this is like budget columns. These are all the standard JobTread names. And then I'll have to link it up with my spreadsheet because my spreadsheet is not going to have those exact names. So here for me, item name, description, quantity, unit cost. So I've got all these top columns in JobTread. That's what I've got to connect with there. So cost group would be section. Different names, same thing. Cost item, item name. Description, that links up. Unit cost, extended cost, that's nothing. Taxable, I would just leave it, take that out. If there's anything you're unsure of, just leave it out. Cost type, so that item type, different names. Cost code, I would normally leave this in if it's your own template and your cost codes match up. If you're using someone else's template, your cost codes and their cost codes probably aren't going to match. So I would not import this in this case because it's going to tell me you can import it, but then you're going to have to match every cost code one by one as you go through. You'll have to do that later in the template anyway. So generally speaking, I would probably import that. You're just going to have to go through a manual process to link. Like if they have 110 framing, yours might be 1156 rough framing. And you'll have to tell it like, this is the actual cost code. I want you to link to that. I'm going to turn it off just for demonstration because I don't want to have to go through all of that in front of you. I'll do import, incoming cost type. So now I got to match all this stuff up. So equipment, labor, material, and subcontractor. Again, this is what JobTread uses. I have it full names just to be clear. Area, square feet, bins. We'll just do each for these cubic yards, put it up there, lineal foot, lineal feet. So same thing, just different names. And then we'll continue. It's going to take a couple seconds, maybe a minute to import all the items. All right, so now all the items have been imported. You can see we've got our categories, so like pre-construction, and then all the items in pre-construction. This is the structure I was talking about. If you do it through the cost catalog, I find it doesn't import properly like this. It's just kind of imports all the items separately. Now you would go through here and update anything that's standard. So any standard pricing you have, if there are quantities that would be standard on every project, you could do that. Typically, though, you're changing the quantities. So you'd leave that as 0. If you don't have a template to import, then just use probably your biggest project that you've ever done. So if you did a very large custom home or a very large full home remodel or addition, pull from that large estimate, bring it into a job, modify it to be a templated, estimate so that all the numbers are templated and items, everything's linked up. And then you would do select all and then export selected to cost catalog group. It's telling me I got to save changes first, so I'll do that. So save it to the group. I'm going to do testing, new home build, All right. So we've now created that cost group. If I go to our catalog, cost groups, we've got our testing, new home build, and there you go. That's that. Now, if we went into a job and we created a new job, I don't want to do that now, but let's go back to our testing one. Using a client's accounts, I don't want to mess up their stuff. So open this one up. We'll go to budget, close that. All right. So select all, delete it all out of here. That's all gone now. Save changes. And now we could do instead of having to import the CSV file, we just go to group. We pull up our testing new home build and there you go. We've got it there in a blink of an eye. So that is how you build templates. That's how you use templates. Templates will save you so much time, as mentioned, because you can do it over and over again. Now, as you use the template, especially the first couple of times through, you're going to notice things like, let's say, roofing. Well, all I've got on here is asphalt shingles, but I do metal roofs sometimes. Go add metal roofing to your estimate. That way it's there. If you're not doing metal roof, you just delete it out. Or maybe it's like, oh, I put square feet, but really I should be doing this by, I don't know, bundles or some other unit. So always go back to your template. Don't change it on the estimate if it's something that's reoccurring, because you want your template to be as dialed in as possible, so it's saving you as much time as possible. So we did templates. You know how to use the catalog groups. Now, cost items. Cost items are an easy way to get products, materials, bring them into your estimates very quickly. I'll just go back to test. test job here and budget. So item, and then I can search in any specific item. Many project management softwares link up with like a Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. So they've got, thousands of items to pull from if you wanted. The big ones for your cost item database is your labor rates. So definitely put your labor rates in there, and then use the 80-20 rule. So what is like 20% of the products that you use on 80% of your projects? 2x4s, drywall, 2x10s, like dimensional lumber, all of this types of stuff that you use a lot. Put those in first. Don't get too hung up on like, oh, I need to load up this whole cost items with all the different stuff that I need and import like 1,000 items, which is what happened here through an admin person. And it's actually a little too much because later to go and delete all of these is very tedious and time consuming. So I would err on the side of caution of just uploading like large lists of items, unless you know what you're doing and that's what you want. Be more selective as you use things, add them to the cost items first and then pull them into your estimate. If you have a supplier you work with, usually you can tell them, hey, can you run like an analysis on my account or make a spreadsheet list of all of the materials that I ordered over the past year and provide me with description and a cost and whatever, and then you could import that here. So again, you need a CSV, but you could import that from your supplier, and that'll give you a much better idea of like what items and materials you actually use or used in the past year, instead of just importing blindly like huge database from some random supplier every little SKU number that they have. So that's cost items. Now you can also make selection templates, and selections, as you know, can be very annoying. Sometimes you can lose money on it. You can also make a bunch of money too, depending on how you structure it. But essentially, selection templates will save you a lot of time. Now, we have a spreadsheet that we use for our clients, and I'll show you what that looks like in JobTread in just a moment. But essentially, this will give you the idea of what we're looking for. It's simply, you've got your different parts of the project, like paint, flooring, tile, whatever. You want to know the item, the color, dimensions, who's supplying it, whether it's been approved or not. So if it's been confirmed by the client or not. A photo is nice, and then any notes. So that kind of information. I also like to include a preferred vendors list. So even if you're using like JobTread or some other project management software, I would still make this for yourself. Have a preferred vendors list so that when your clients go shopping and they're looking for tile, they're not going to some weird tile place that's super discount and really sucks. Because they take like, 30 weeks to get in a piece of tile. So this isn't going to maybe totally make them go to every place that you want, but at least you are curating their experience, and hopefully you have sales reps or discounts and a good reason for that to suggest these. So provide a preferred vendors list to your clients. Even if they're working with an interior designer, give it to the interior designer, compare notes. Designers should know their stuff and have good suppliers, but at the same time, if you give them that information, they're more likely to use the ones that you prefer to work with. And then a standard items library is standard things that are on a lot of your projects. So things like doors, typically the couple styles, you got, your 6-panel, your shaker, and maybe a flat, and maybe you got one or two others. There's not too many other door styles that people use unless you're going super, super custom. So that's where you'd have a standard items library. Now, in JobTread, you can put a lot of that stuff in here. So we go cost groups, selections templates, and we'll put a new one in here. So cost group, toggle selections template. We'll put kitchen for this. You could do kitchen. You could also do sink. I would probably do larger cost groups for selections rather than smaller ones because you can delete stuff out, but you'll figure out what works for you. In this case, we'll say we're doing a kitchen. Now we're going to do a new selection. We're going to say this is going to be the sink. And then we can put options in here. So we could put economy or standard, better name. So we got our standard. We could then go over to maybe like Home Depot or one of your suppliers and do kitchen sink. Now you could have actual specific items that you put in here. It depends on your pre-construction process. So let's say this sink here is like, this is an actual sink that I would suggest for projects or for their project. You could save image as, just right click on the image, save it, save the image. Here, we'll download it. So you could get the pricing. Of course, you're going to mark it up, pull in this description, and you could do it all word for word if you want that specific thing. If you just want to give them options, like if you're in a rough budgeting stage and you're like, do you guys want the standard? Do you want the mid-grade, or do you want like the luxury? You could have a standard one, I don't know, $200. Your mid-range is maybe 400. Super luxury is like $1,000 sink or whatever. I don't know how expensive sinks are right now, but I'm sure there's ones in the thousands of dollars. So at least that gives them an idea of they can select and they know where the cost of their projects and the budget are coming from. Or you could give them specific ones of like, if you know most clients like these types of sinks, you could put them in here if you want. So we can copy in the description, you can drop that image in there. So we got the sink. There we go. And we're done. Of course, you could add the link. You could add the SKU number, all kinds of stuff. Put a new option. So we'll say mid-range, and same thing. Of course, you want to put in the cost. Let's say our mid-range sink is going to be $750. That's the allowance for it. And your markup here and margin. So I'm not going to get into margin markup, but 30% is good, definitely. One thing to account for with selections is there's going to be taxes on top of it sometimes. So know if you're paying taxes, whether that's included in this price that you're giving or if that's on top. So let's say I want a 30% margin, but I know I'm going to pay like 5% sales tax or 10% sales tax. Then I'd want to bump this up to make sure I'm covering for taxes. And we go done. And we could add another option here. So we'll do super high and amazing. And we'll say this is like a $10,000 sink, and done. Having a little fun here, but you get the idea. So we're gonna finish that off. We've now got a sink. We could do the same thing for countertops, cabinets, whatever. So that's a good way for them. For me, when I'm doing rough budgeting, just like pro tip here, I will typically pick something that's like healthy for the budget, but it is not extravagant. Because in the rough budgeting stage, you don't want to scare them off with like an inflated estimate, even though if you know that they're going to be like maybe leaning towards the luxury or high end stage, you want to give them like a reasonable budget that we could build your kitchen for this price. We could build your home for this price. It could be $500,000. When they get into it, they're like, yeah, sounds good. The purpose of the rough budget is show them what the price is. You can tell them if you're picking luxury items, more expensive stuff, we've got allowances. This budget could go up, but this project is feasible for this. You get them in the pre-construction agreement. Now you can go through these selections. If they're pulling out $5,000 sinks, obviously that's going to change the price of their project because I doubt you budgeted that much for a sink. Going on a little rant there. Let's get back to the tutorial. So we've got that in there. We'll go back to our job here. So we got our test job, and we will go to budget. We've got selections here, and we can add selections here, and we can also go from catalog. So I'm going to go to groups, and we're going to search for kitchen selections. So there's a bunch of preloaded ones here, and you can see there's a bunch of cabinet stuff, island features. Selections can get pretty overwhelming when you got like a million different things, but I'm going to bring in all of this. So let's say it's like I've got a kitchen, I want a backsplash, cabinets, countertops, sink faucet. We want all of that. So we'll bring it in here, and then we can create these selections. So now we've got that. You can see the price range there. This can be linked with the estimate so that if the client approves something, it automatically gets reflected in the estimate. As I mentioned earlier, you've probably lost money along the way somewhere where you've put in an allowance for a $200 sink. Client picks one that's $250 or $300. You don't want to make a big change order. It's not worth your time potentially to like go and change things, but that's slowly eroding your margins. And clients are typically going to pick like the most expensive thing they can, and they're going to try to get away with as much as they possibly can. It's natural. It's nothing insidious or anything like that. But having a system like this alerts you and lets you know specifically what the costs are, and it's updating the budget automatically. So you just got a complete blueprint of how to systemize a construction business. The people that I mentioned in this video, Ben doubling his profit and expanding his team, Rob doubling his revenue and going from a negative profit all the way up to 280,000. They all had one thing in common. They didn't just watch the videos about systems. They actually made the move to building these systems in their business and getting help from someone who's done this for years. So if you want our help with systemizing your business, where we will build all these systems out for you without you having to worry about it, click the link in the description to apply to work with us.